This is Joe's Java Jive, a new episode for a new listener. You know, you're never the same person you were a moment ago, and you shouldn't try to be. And that's, at the end of the day, the beauty of life. We get to joyfully ride through this life and find a way to make friends, make creations, and make music. And I'm so honored to be here today with someone who is used to doing all of the above. You're now listening to the soothing sounds of Yurble.
That's me, babe.
Yes, Yurble. Welcome. So I would love to just tell you that this is such a unique episode for me. This is really our first time connecting is on the podcast. So welcome to Joe's Java Jive. And why don't you introduce yourself to this audience?
So happy to be here. My name's Yurble. I'm a performing artist. I work in Poughkeepsie in the Hudson Valley area. I'm a musician. I'm a stunt fighter. I am an actor. I do a whole lot of stuff, and I'm really happy to be here and to jam and to meet you, Joe, in digital person, because we've been mutual friends on Facebook for years, and I don't
Yes.
know how and where and all. It's just been one of those things where it's a human being you see in passing, that you don't ever. But that you have a whole bunch of things in common with them,
Yeah.
because of this device that Zuckerberg has made.
You know, I'm
That
thankful to
connects human
Zuckerberg.
beings.
Thankful.
I have a mixed to negative relationship with him, but this is one of the high points, I think,
This
is
is
when I
it.
can meet people like you.
Absolutely. Yes, we've been Facebook friends, and here we are finally connecting in person, Yurble. They call me Jolly Joe Jester, my Facebook name, Joseph Davis. And yeah, there's been people throughout your life who you meet through and you see them and what they're doing, but you don't even really know them. And I'm somebody who will befriend pretty much anybody. You send me a request. If you look like a real human and you have a heartbeat, let's be friends. Let's support each other.
Yeah, I'm definitely for that. I'm definitely in the same boat,
That's
on the same
awesome.
sea.
Well, this is the sea of life here, and I'm just so excited to get into what it is that you do and why we particularly connected today and what we might be in store for. So, what led to us having this conversation today, and what are some of the mediums that you have taken on so far in your life?
Well, I have I reached out to Joe, to you, and so I'm explaining to the viewers, to Joe, who I like I said, knew on Facebook because of the improv troupe that they are, that Joe is so involved in. Um, looking for an improvisational pianist or a musician generally, for a gig that is remarkably soon, which is to say, it's a good thing it's improv because we won't have to prep very much. But that Joe was looking for a pianist who could play music without having to know what the music is before they're playing it. And I've done that my entire life, in mostly in behind the scenes, practicing piano and performing and composing piano, um, in some way or another, and it's never been marketable. And I'm so glad anytime something like this comes up, because for a hot second, it's an audience for being able to extemporize and to play piano without prep, and to play any instrument without prep. Because I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I play 12 instruments, some of them much worse than others, but piano probably the best.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I'll jump at the chance to be able to do any improv, because it's God, it's so much fun, and it used to be a much more respected concept, back when people were dueling classical counterpoint, and even today when they're dueling in jazz. But it's so rare to do it, and to have a medium for it. Not all of us can find the rare gigs where we get to do piano extempore. So I'm really
Yeah.
excited to, if that's possible.
Extempore. That means improvised?
It's a very fancy and anal way to say improvised. Yes, I learned it once. I was told I was doing it. Someone at this was at the Stissing Center in Pine Plains, and I was doing an extempore set for them for a cocktail bar,
Yeah.
and they told me that I play piano really weird, that my hands are much too flat for anyone who appears to be classically trained, and that I'm doing something called extemporizing, which I was, for my whole life, it's just been called making it up. But they went and told me that it has a disciplinary name in music theory, and that there are musical disciplines dedicated to extemporizing within set formats and structures,
Yeah.
so that they are a part of certain genres of classical music and jazz music.
That's
So it's all a
awesome.
very anal way to say I rarely know what I'm going to play before I play it, and um, that's why I really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to do it in front of other people and
Yeah, and
have it
as a unit,
never
who
before.
what we're doing will be also that same form. So it's kind of what we're used to here at Happenstancery Improv is just riding the lightning bolt and waiting for the magic. It's a perfect collaboration.
Oh, I like that metaphor. I like flowery language generally.
Yeah, though you're going to get a lot of it in this convo because, Joe's Java Jive, this podcast, I really love the chance to get to know people and have a true, honest conversation and hear a little bit about their story and how they ended up where they are. To me, as an artist and a creator, that's always been such a helpful tool for me is to grow up and listen to these stories and say, okay, here's how they did it. And I think there's so much to glean from that kind of relationship. So I wanted to start with kind of where did you grow up and what was sort of your childhood like a little bit, if you don't mind starting at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I grew up here. I'm in the house that I grew up in. I'm 25, but everyone knows today it's very difficult to move out conceptually, to buy a house and to leave a nest when the market for new nests is in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, um, that are not given to most people who come out of school, even with a 4-year degree. It's difficult, and so living frugally is a big part of who I am today, and is something that I've grown into as my family and myself have gone through a little bit of downward social locomotion as far as income brackets go. Um, but so I have a bit of a bigger house than we can afford because it was in that way inherited wealth. But I'm happy to abuse that space and fill it up with musical instruments, which I've done for my whole life. I have 2 acoustic pianos. This is the one behind me, if you have a video, but if you don't, that's okay. Believe me, there's a piano behind me. Is a portable grand with a synthesizer on top. They're both connected. They both do a lot of great work.
Wow.
And like I said, alongside that, I play the cornet. I picked that up in school. I played the recorder. I was one of the kids that in 3rd grade, when you gave me a recorder, I didn't stop playing it and kept trying to get good at it. Um, and I've over the last couple of years gotten really into collecting and playing strange instruments. So I play a mountain dulcimer. I play a hurdy-gurdy. I play an accordion. Uh, I
Hmm.
I play a guzheng, which is a Chinese harp. I tend to mispronounce it because I'm self-taught, and it's a
Whoa.
foreign word. Um, but I've most recently picked up a violin and a saxophone they sound awful, and they're not going to sound good for years. I know it, but I'm going to keep working at them until they're decent.
That's
And so I grew
amazing,
up playing
Peter.
mostly
Wow.
piano. Yeah.
Yurble, I'm very impressed. We share a lot of the same, qualities there in terms of collecting instruments. Even if you're not good at them yet, it's just like owning them. It's like owning a book you intend to read.
And the process of learning an instrument, I'll gush about it every time I get a new one, is such it's such a unique experience. It's learning how to ride a bike over and over again. They're new formats for bikes and new means for expression. I'm such a huge advocate of going on to eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, looking for instruments people are getting rid of for next to nothing because they don't want them anymore, and having to go with them, because some of them will be just I got a lot of my instruments that way. My mountain dulcimer I got that way, and the easiest string instrument on the planet.
Hmm.
It's a lap guitar, and it has such an easy means for articulation that once you learn its most basic mechanics, which you probably already know if you've ever touched a guitar, then you can play it like well, I mean, like something that is easy to play. You can
Yeah,
play it like checkers. It's
exactly. And
easy to
Joe,
pick up, impossibly high skill ceiling, and you can always keep getting better at it and having fun with it every step of the way.
oh, that's so true. I know Joni Mitchell, who had some trouble with her hands, found the dulcimer very freeing to allow her to really express herself in some of her greatest songs. So it's a special instrument, and I have a couple dulcimers that just mean the world to me. One of them even has cardboard as sort of the base to it. So, what makes a mountain dulcimer a mountain dulcimer?
Well, a mountain dulcimer, there are two different. This is going to be a little bit of like musical linguistics sidebar.
Yeah.
The dulcimer is a word that can represent two different things. There's a hammered dulcimer, a traditional dulcimer, which is a harp that you hit, and a mountain dulcimer is a guitar that sits on your lap sideways.
Oh, okay.
It's tuned to so they're two different categories of instrument based on articulation.
That's cool.
And but the mountain dulcimer is a bluegrass standard. Um, People think that it originated probably. I mean, they think it originated probably somewhere in either um, uh, Iceland or Norway or something like that, maybe Scotland, but where there are similar instruments like it. But that its particular luthier tradition of its construction being a guitar string on the bottom, a banjo string in the middle, and two not steel guitar, what is it? Mandolin strings, kind of on
Wow.
the top. Those three strings do a lot of are the basic means for articulation. The bottom two drone, the top is articulated to make sound. It's a wonderful instrument tradition, and that instrument just emerged out of Appalachia, of people sitting on their porches playing music for the birds to hear, and for
Wow.
their while they wait for their moonshine to distill, um, and that's it has a great range. It's a gorgeous instrument,
That's
and so
awesome.
that's the one I play. I will work my way to finding and playing a hammered dulcimer because those are another difficult monster.
Wow. I wanted to ask you about another one you mentioned because I've only ever heard the term hurdy-gurdy from the classic Donovan song, The Hurdy-Gurdy Man. And that's the ones that's what I think of when you say that. Then when the hurdy-gurdy man came singing songs of life. So what is a hurdy-gurdy for folks who might not know what that is?
Well, I wish I could play it for you, but right now it's not in a super playable condition. A hurdy-gurdy is an old medieval instrument that is a. It sounds very unique. I'll tell you, I bought the one that I have from a bagpiper at the New York Renaissance Fair, where I worked playing the mountain dulcimer every day, probably about 8 hours
Wow.
a day. I played it. I bought it from a bagpiper who couldn't stand how it sounded, which tells you a little bit about how difficult it is to articulate.
Yeah.
If a bagpiper is sick of it, then it must sound awful. Um, and so it's a joyous instrument. It is a violin kind of action where it is making a bowed sound using rosin to create friction against the string. But instead of a violin bow, it's a wheel that you crank with the side of the device. Um, and so you crank the wheel, it drones with some strings that are not attached to any methods of articulation. They just make noise the way that droning bagpipes do. And then you have two melodic strings that you articulate with buttons in a chromatic scale like a piano. It's a very old instrument tradition from medieval Europe. And so you'll hear it once in a while tapped in something like the soundtrack to The Witcher 3. I think it was featured there. In a couple game soundtracks, they like to throw it in for really extraneously interesting sounds
That's amazing.
because it has this. It's ethereally strange. But I love it to death. The reason that I can't play it is because it's an enormously easy instrument to play, especially if you play piano, because it's just a chromatic scale of buttons that all you have to do is learn how to crank it so that it sounds interesting and creates its authentic kind of a known for sound, which is mostly is done by the trumpet, which is a string that is has tension to a small piece of wood that is vibrating and creating its characteristic buzzing sound. All of that said, it's very easy to play. It's very difficult to maintain.
Yeah.
All of the strings that engage with the wheel need cotton and rosin placed on it in such a way that there's just the right amount of cotton, just the amount of rosin. And anyone who plays a hurdy-gurdy knows the first rule is not to touch the wheel, because once the wheel is in an operating state, touching it and changing the the chemical composition of the oils and rosin that's on the wheel will change how the instrument sounds and will make it sound awful. As it will make it sound like someone who really doesn't know how to play the violin is playing it, because the wheel isn't articulating with the strings correctly, as amateur violinists like myself constantly do when they try to play the violin. They'll make those awful squeaking noises. Getting it in a playable state is harder than playing the instrument itself, which is kind of it's a very interesting instrument in that capacity.
It's interesting. There's a metaphor there for something about getting the preparation is half the battle in life. I think a lot of times, as a filmmaker myself and a film director, it sounds like all the pre-production, all the things that go into making the day you're on set, a success. It sounds like the hurdy-gurdy here. So, wow, what a science. It sounds like Yurble, you've really done the research and are well-knowledged on instruments. So I'm glad we're talking about this.
It's well, I'll hedge its authenticity. I'm self-taught, so everything that I've learned is from experience with others or experience on internet resources. So a whole lot of what I know and what I can talk about music from this perspective is from a really strange, NB trans girl living under a rock who likes to collect musical instruments perspective. You have to hedge it, as you can't cite me in the same way you can't cite Wikipedia.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Anything you learn, take it with a grain of salt from me.
Well, with that said, I had an idea while you were talking. I'm going to give myself a little editing task for later. For right now, I know all of you probably want to know what a hurdy-gurdy sounds like. So I'm going to take it upon myself to find a sound and place it right now into the podcast. So in a second here, we'll all hear what one sounds like together. Okay, we're back. How does that sound? Incredible, right?
I think it was gorgeous, absolutely wonderful example. I didn't hear it, but I assume it was a hurdy-gurdy.
I promise you I'll not put like a sound of a donkey or something in there and replace. That's going to be an authentic one. We'll agree upon it later on. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Now that I'm talking to the hurdy-gurdy, expert here, I want to just keep that conversation going, because I know having all these instruments and constantly continuing your quest for how to use these tools to best express yourself, it's so perfect to have somebody like you in our corner as an improv troupe. Like the atmosphere that music provides for theater, for film, for everything, it gives such an intention and intensity to the scenes when you have that underwhelming sound that kind of builds and gets close and you forget it's there, but it makes you hyper focused on what's being said, I think, and adds a lot to it. How has your, relationship with performing grown, and sort of what's the balance for you between the musical side of things? And I know it sounds like you're a performer and creator in so many other ways. So what are some of those other art forms that you take on, and how do you kind of incorporate music into it?
It's really funny because music sneaks its way into basically everything that I do. And as I said, I work in a whole lot of different industries in performing arts, because specialization in theater is really only for people who really can specialize. In my understanding of philosophy, especially of how I make my businesses work, is committing to be a generalist, and allowing different skills to flow into different needs and capacities as they come. Yeah. In that respect, I have, against my will, ended up being a musician more often than I have been anything else that I could claim that I am. I can speak for immediate example. I'm about to go and play Hamlet at a local at the Rhinebeck Center for Performing Arts, a local nonprofit community theater. and have been asked to accompany the play within the play myself in character, because the director knows that I can play the penny whistle and the foot tambourine, which is enough of a Renaissance feel on its own to accompany that sequence. And the director said, I think it'd be really cool because I've never seen anyone approach Hamlet as a musician. That's just the most recent example.
Wow.
I spent last autumn working at the New York Renaissance Fair as a stunt performer in their chess fight, which is to say the Robin Hood story that they create in their play. So street performing was all about that. They hired me for the capacity to be a street performer and do on street work and improv with people, to embody a character and perform it all day, in addition to going and performing the stunt show in the afternoons. And ended up being a busker there with my dulcimer, and being as near as I could to being a professional bard in my entire life.
Wow.
And so that, and a wonderful experience that I was offered that position for my capacity to do that, and to engage music in that completely adjacent but nevertheless distinct performance form. Which and so that pops everywhere. I've scored two pieces of a theater that I was also performing in, and so
Wow.
which were both of the Shakespeare festivals at the Center for Performing Arts last year and the year before. I scored the music to, which were 30-minute 30 minutes of music to be used for the theatrical piece.
Wow.
And so I really am so glad that that I find little ways to make what I do with music marketable in the industry that I've ended up in performing arts, because it's a really special and unique feeling to present a monologue behind a piece of music that you scored. In the same
Mm.
way that as a filmmaker, I imagine would be being able to being able to see an end product that you were involved in more than one creative capacity, and can see different parts of it meshing. Obviously, working with other people is exactly as important to me as being able to see other people perform their monologues in front of my music and being able to support them in that way. And so it's I think eventually the categories start dissolving, and it stops being strictly music and strictly acting or strictly stunt work or strictly this or that or the other, and
Yeah.
starts just being art,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah, because
art in full. Yeah.
when you find yourself in these projects and it's a collaboration, you're so right. Even films that I went on as an actor, you find yourself, if you have a little bit of an idea or a little bit of advice for the production side of things, or maybe you need to go help out with the art department, or I always bring my own props or ideas. I think my character would have this on his desk. And it's just such a collaboration with all of these mediums, that to be able to be a person of song and dance and all these different trades, it's such a valuable thing. Where me getting to know you for the first time, Yurble, I can already see so many ways where we would collaborate, and just having you on set or having you take a look at the film and saying, what could the sound be here for this moment where it turns into darkness, or what about here where it comes out. It's just such an amazing thing. And doing this podcast, you're putting it out there, not just to my network, but anybody else who is a future guest, that you are someone in this region who does these things. And to be known, let's get Yurble involved. And I love that you got to actually be a bard, as you put it, and manifest something that it sounds like you already always wanted to be.
Oh yes. Oh yes. It's kind of, it's a blessing and a curse, because I feel so in love with that job, with being with doing Renaissance fair street work and doing this kind of performing arts, that I now am having to restructure my life a little bit around wanting to do it more.
Yes.
Um, Ren Fair performers will typically, if they're properly professional, they'll be following a circuit, and they'll be performing at different fairs and different locations all across the United States and beyond throughout the year. It'll be gig after gig, but they will have kind of standby ways to go and move to and temporarily stay at those locations to perform with their particular skill set. And a lot of them are very much in their niche in that marketplace. I know a couple performers who, whose job it is to crack whips or to raise falcons and fly them around. Whose job it is to, oh goodness, I'll shout out the Cat and Mouse Circus, Cirque du Soleil, who are I think the only human beings on the planet who have managed to train a house cat to do tricks. And their show is phenomenal.
Wow.
Their lives are their road lives. They live in their RVs. They live in a way where they're able to move towards where the work is. And I have ever since I have kind of fallen in love with the kind of ideas of busking and doing performing arts with creative autonomy, with with a means to take the capacity to play some of these strange instruments and sing a lot of these traditional songs, to compose a lot of these songs as well. All of those little micro skills that have never been marketable before in my life on their own have suddenly kind of found a medium. And so I'm working towards getting some fundraising done for the infrastructure of an RV and the time and place to workshop the creative acts that I need to bring on the road. So that is, please come find me on my website. kiewra.net is my website, because my last name is Kevra, which is my dead name because I'm transgender. I've transitioned to being called Yurble. But you can find me there at kevra.net, where you can read about all the crap that I've gone up to in my life, including all of the above. So I'd be happy to say, please, let's collaborate. I'm very cheap. Well and truly, I am
for now, but they say
drink it while you can.
Exactly. And you're on Joe's Java Jive. One of the themes is, if you do something you love long enough, you'll eventually become a master at it, and then somebody will pay you for it. And you may be frugal now and cheap now, but Yurble, it sounds like you're on your way to becoming a real master of all of this amazing work. And I think I'm so thankful to know you and to welcome you into this, and that I put out the signal to the universe that we need someone just like you in this exact skill set that you have. It's just incredible to document our first time talking here, because I have a feeling we're going to work together. We're going to have a great time. And I'm going to give you your first paid gig, maybe with our improv troupe on this Saturday, the 24th, when this is probably going to be released, and folks can come and see us together playing right at Peekskill at the Artist Spot, doing a Happenstancery set. And you're going to be offering our background sound for these little movie soundtracks, improvised movies that we get the title from the audience, and then we create the scene, and you kind of monitoring the vibe of it and eventually bringing it to a conclusion. So there's no one, I think, more fitted for this than you that I've ever met.
Well, I'll be the first to say I can't guarantee it's top quality, given the fact that it's improv and never done this particular format before. The improv formats I've done on piano, as far as that go, are party tricks generally, or things of saying the audience will give me 3 notes and we'll try to compose a melody and see if a song can emerge out of it. And we'll tell a story about what that song is. That's my party trick, is the one I can pull out of my pocket if I need to fill 5 minutes on an improv stage and there happens to be a piano nearby. And there, as far as improv goes as a comedic and performance form for me, I rely a lot on party tricks and on the structures and formats that I know I can fall back into comfortably. So if this show isn't perfect, it's okay. Next show will be better.
Absolutely. And we'll have a chance to practice and rehearse. And the truth is, what I've been doing is a simple, sometimes I just go do a walk down from A minor and just kind of twirl some things.
Look, a walk down from A minor does a lot of legwork, to be fair.
That's it. I'm like, that's my starting point. And we've had people go on the keys who've, rarely play piano and never do. And that's usually who I'm trading off with sometimes when it's time for me to go on. And I've realized with art forms and theater, you have to ask for help. You have to recognize where, all right, I'm stretching myself too thin. I can't be the director of the improv that's happening on stage and also the music person. I can't. So it's time to realize, the more you open up your world and allow for new input, new spirits, new creators to come and get involved, it's going to be an amazing thing. And just hearing you talk about your story and journey, Yurble, you sound like, such a character of this bard, this traveling Renaissance person. I imagine it, stepping beyond just the Renaissance circuit and creating your own, persona online. And I'm imagining just seeing this person, Yurble, on the streets, of New York City or New Paltz or wherever it is, Poughkeepsie, doing your thing. And that's the kind of stuff I really want to step into and I will be there for you as a support. If you ever need somebody to say, hey, let's go, and you get the hidden camera from a mile away and capture my interactions with people, giving them a little dose of Yurble.
That's a great idea. I mean, because I've always, I've had a really interesting, well, this is, I don't know if a podcast is a great place to talk about this, but I had a great conversation with my therapist the other day, which was about, I have had, being a transgender actor and acting being a job of selling your body in some capacity, I've had a lot of friction over the course of my life of having to present myself in ways that are not always contingent with what a director wants, or with what I want. Is that there's always a disconnect between that, because I'm a very masculine presenting person. I'm biologically male, and I'm typecast as biologically male because it's very difficult to socially transition. And so I vented to my therapist the other day about how difficult it is to find a whole lot of sense of happiness while you are selling your body, being a body that you don't want to sell. And what I had found was that there was the alternative to that was independent work, was work where you could decide your own presentation and market it however you'd like. And whether people like it or dislike it, you're still doing it for you, and you're still able to have control over your own creative capacities. And when I thought about that, I said, that would be great if I had the capacity to do independent work, because there are a whole lot of things that I know I simply am not good enough on my own to do without a collaborator. For instance, I have always wanted to write a musical, but I'm god awful at writing lyrics. And only when I have really properly Greco-Roman muses appearing at my shoulder who are whispering the lyrics directly into my ear can I ever write lyrics that are in any way good. And that's only happened a couple of times in my life. Sure, I'm proud of those songs, but the rest of them are garbage. And so I need a lyricist. And if I'm going to write my own music that I'm going to sing to, I need someone else to make up the words. And so it's a fine line, finding the concession between I want creative autonomy over my work and I want someone else to do the work that I know for a fact I can't do on my own.
Yes, that is such a
so
true
I think it's
point.
experimental, finding the right people, the right setups, and always trying a new thing.
Yeah, you have to. And I think there's a couple things you said that really I wanted to comment on. Being a transgender actor, I know we've had several in Happenstancery that it was really exciting to have a discussion early on, as a cisgender male, being educated sort of in this part of my life and living in New Paltz and meeting people and having the conversations and being educated. It was inspiring to have I'm thinking really of Margot, who has now moved on to Boston and will be a future guest on Happenstancery. But when they got involved with the troupe, it was so educating to say, like, we should all play any gender, anything we want at any point, and even deities. Don't assume just because of the way I present that my character is a male, is a female, or is, a thing. And I was just talking with Margot as they're in Boston now and talking about the drag community and the drag shows and things. And it's more than just drag kings and drag queens anymore. There's also drag things, which I was really blown away with, this excitement of, wow, you found this community where people, this spirit that's inside of us all, whatever the outer layer is, that's interchangeable. And that's what improv to me is so freeing. You get to be outside of whatever shell you present as and be anything you want to be. And I'm so supportive of that as a performer and as someone who's an ally of just learning. I think it's important for me to speak up and to educate people who may be ignorant in that way, because I know I once was myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mean, it's really it's an interesting process to experience as someone who um didn't know what transgender was when they were growing up, and where, I mean, to the capacity that that subcultures like the furry fandom are a core part of my identity. um Not knowing what a furry was until I was told that I was one, and went and found what they were and said, well, that's me, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so there's a I went to New Paltz, to the college there, and I studied anthropology instead of theater, because I have had enough education in theater without needing to go to college, was what I said at the time.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I might have enjoyed a theater program there, but the but one thing that was really that came out of an anthropology education, as it came to referencing my own queerness and understanding what it was that it's everyone who's queer, there's no hard instruction booklet for it, for how to be and how to understand who you are, in the way that there are such socially constructed instruction booklets to be straight or cisgendered,
Mm.
of things like Cinderella, or rom-coms, of knowing what straight relationships in American culture might, what kind of form they might take. So I think creative works like theater and performance art are what are such a great means to find out what you are in that sense. And if there's any confusion about it that you ever feel, if there's anything that you kind of have even the smallest inkling of saying, did I have some kind of feeling at some point in my life that something I was doing didn't feel as though it was a part of my gender category, I definitely urge engagement in theater, because of how, both as a viewer and as a performer, engaging with it can can help you understand that. Which is, of course, me speaking as a drag thing, which I've been once or twice. Not not very much, because it's very expensive to do drag, and that's one thing a lot of people don't recognize, is that drag
Yeah.
is one of the most expensive performance forms to lift on your own, independently. The cost of makeup alone staggers the mind.
Yeah.
Um, but the where when you have enough independence to explore to explore this capacity, and where you also have resources to support you, you can find, I've found myself in some of the gigs that I hold closest to my heart were ones where I was able to explore gender and sexuality in ways that I know I I can't imagine any other workplace ever would.
Yeah.
Um, the big one that comes to mind for a small anecdote was there's a local Rocky Horror Picture Show shadowcast called the Apocalypse Cast. They do typically shows around Halloween, but there's one coming up in April. But it's in West Nyack, so pretty far south from us. It's going to tour down there as a drag brunch. And we put that on a couple years ago, and if you've never seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the first shot is a giant pair of lips that come on and sing you a very sultry song as they roll the start credits. And a Rocky Horror Picture Show shadowcast, if you've never seen one, is a bunch of actors who go and dress up like characters from the movie and mime along all of the scenes from the movie as the movie is playing, whilst shouting obscenities and jokes at the screen. Um, if you've never seen it, go see it. Enjoy. Losing your virginity, as we will call it, because it's a rather fun cult college concept that has evolved over many years. It's a 50-year-old tradition now,
Yes. You
as
have to
old as the
see it.
film.
You have to see it
You
for
have to see it to
yourself.
find out. When I was cast as the lips that come on in the start and sing you that sultry song. And they said, Yurble, you have the entire song as a drag act that you can put on, or doesn't have to be drag, just as a performance act. You can decide, because it's ambiguous what the lips are and what they look like, what they're doing, what you want the show to be in that moment. And so I went into my closet and dug out a spandex bodysuit that I had bought to play a demon in a production of She Kills Monsters a little bit earlier. I put it on, found an old corset from a friend, found a plastic dress from Forever 21. Found 6.5-inch heels that I had bought to do a production of Kinky Boots. Found some prosthetic horns, some makeup, some hairspray, etc., and workshops doing a striptease where I emerge from the audience, chained up by two women dressed as a nun, and slowly strip out of the nun habit to reveal the demon underneath. And
Wow.
that drag act was very good. It was also awful, but it was good and interesting, and like just the shock value alone of being able to do a full Monty striptease, bar the skin suit underneath, which was a nice skin suit and was well painted with muscles and everything. It's a gorgeous costume piece. That I was able to keep from buying and from funding for doing She Kills Monsters. And being able to perform that was really special, especially given that at one point we were throwing this down in Peekskill at the Paramount. And that day, the actor who played Brad Majors in the original film came, did a talk, and watched the show.
Whoa.
And we were all terrified, but we were all, obviously terrified. But I remember he came up to me and said, "What are you supposed to be?" And I said, "Well, I'm the lips at the start, and it's an interpretation. It's a choice." But I remember very clearly when I went on to perform that night, and I was throwing away the nun habit at the start of the chorus of the song, and the big reveal of saying this gorgeous, disgusting outfit is hidden underneath. I threw it in such a way that those 6.5-inch heels left the purchase of the ground and forced me to fall upon my rear in front of 700 people, including celebrity guests. I remember very clearly that was probably the lowest point my career has ever been in my life. And it was awful. I got up as sexily as I could and continued the number. Went backstage, yelled a little bit, and laughed a whole lot because I realized I don't think I'll ever be able to fuck up more than that. I think everything that I do from now on doesn't really matter so much, because given all of this creative autonomy, all of this ability to decide your own concept and to make your own show, everything I thought went right, and then one thing went wrong and it all fell apart. And on the show that quote unquote mattered, that had more of an audience that I'd ever had in my entire life. And so obviously very stressful, but it's rewarding to know that you can't get any worse. And so that's right. That show was at Sugarloaf, because then I went to Peekskill, and in the show after, I didn't fall over, and it was phenomenal. It was great, and it was the best, and I love it to death. And that night lives rent-free in my head, was performing in Peekskill.
Oh, that's beautiful. You never know. Something can always go wrong, and it's all about it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and get back up. That's it. So bravo to you. If you never fall, you'll never learn how to get back up.
Yeah, I don't know if that's too much of a tangent, but I've secretly always wanted to tell that story on a podcast, and I've never been on a podcast, so I take my chances when I can get them.
Yes, Yurble. It's a beautiful story for everyone, and I think even in the moment, some of my best moments in theater were when something goes wrong and you find the just perfect improvisation to make it back, to bring it back. And I think the audience is with you to support that. Nothing gets a bigger applause than when somebody screws up on their first attempt at an open mic, and they're like, "Come on, you can do it." We all are rooting for you.
Yeah, that's the great thing about improv, is that there is it's and to the extent that Renaissance Fair performances and doing street work improv at Ren Fairs are improv stages of their own, the same atmosphere is there, the same kind of feeling of it's all right if you make a mistake. We're here having a great time drinking at the pub crawl and eating turkey legs all day. We're not here to be wowed as though it's Broadway. We're here to have fun. And the audience that comes to Ren Fairs perform honestly. They come and they dress up better than us. They act better than us a lot of times, and they have a wonderful day with us as in this space.
I was just talking about the Renaissance thing yesterday because I've never been. I can't believe it.
Oh, well, now you got to go.
I'm going to go. I have to. And I'm just so enthralled at this whole community of people doing LARPing, basically, where they all agree that we're going to be on this same different universe. There's fairies, there's knights, there's every kind of goblin you can imagine, and dragon, and it's just at the end of the day, life is a big game of pretend. We forget it sometimes. We grow up, we get serious, we've got jobs and bills and things to do. But at the end of the day, I feel freest and most myself when I'm pretending with my peers.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. I've
Well,
one more anecdote about improv at Red Bear
yes, please.
that comes to mind in reference to music, in reference to everything that we've talked about today.
Yeah.
I remember very clearly there was a point where in the fairy forest, which is a place that is nice and quiet, especially near the end of the day when everyone is going to watch the joust, I was walking along with my dulcimer, and there was a baby in a stroller who was crying. And I was really, I empathize with children crying, especially infants, because that's how I feel all the time. So
Yeah.
I go up to the baby and I start playing my dulcimer, and just for the knack of saying, do lullabies actually work? Can you actually properly lullaby a kid to sleep? I haven't engaged with an infant long enough to know if that's possible. And so, I'm doing the street work, I'm doing the engagement, I'm talking to them in character, and I start playing a song for the baby, and the baby stops crying, and the baby starts watching, and the baby is enamored by the sound of the music. And I go to sing something along with what I'm playing, and I realize I didn't prep a lullaby in my set. I had 50 songs prepped, and none of them were lullabies. A bunch of them were way too dirty to sing in front of a child, despite the child being an infant and wouldn't understand it. And I wasn't sure what to do. But luckily, another actor who was playing the Sheriff of Nottingham, who my character was against. This was a good guy, bad guy relationship that was set. And the Sheriff of Nottingham came walking by. And against my character's wishes, I said, "Sheriff, come hither," and had him come by. And I went and explained to the sheriff, "I'm playing a lullaby, but I don't know any words. Can you make up some words?" And had the poor sheriff, who had had a horrible day up to that point, or a horrible weekend due to a couple poor interactions with which weren't their fault. It wasn't his fault. A couple interactions with patrons that went wrong because of just the nature of patrons being patrons.
Yeah.
And trying to see if I could make this this actor who I respect so much, who is such a wonderful stunt. He choreographed all of the stunts and is such a great improv actor.
Oh, wow.
Seeing if I can make him sing the baby, and got him to sing a couple lines. And I remember we at the end of every weekend at the Renaissance Fair, our cast of the Renaissance of the Robin Hood scenario cast would always do Rosebud Thorn. We'd always talk about something you loved, talk about something that you're gonna love and that's growing, and then talk about something you didn't like. And I was so happy to be the Sheriff of Nottingham's Rose for pulling him into a lullaby with a child. And they gave me a tip for that to the parents, and I'm not allowed to accept tips, so I gave it back. And then if they insist upon giving it, which for the record, I don't know if that happened. If they insisted upon giving it, I gave it to another performer because but I just remember that moment. Whatever character I make in order to create a busking act, I think I'm going to name him Lullaby. Because that's kind of like a little origin story that encapsulates all of those vibes that we have vibed through today on Joe's Java Jive.
Yes, it absolutely does. What a great way to bring us to a close here. I'm so excited to meet you in person on Thursday. And by the time the listener is listening to this, come see us and meet us in person on the 24th here, Saturday of February 2024, 2/24/24 at the Artist Spot in Peekskill. And I was curious to close us out. Yurble, would you ever want to give us one more little lullaby to any crying babies listening to take the show to an end?
Yes, I would.
Take your time. I'll stall while you look around.
Give me half a second, because there's one from a film that I went and it's a film called The Court Jester, starring Danny Kaye, 1957. Love it to death. Let me see if I have the lyrics.
Oh, that's amazing. While you're looking, I wanted to say, because you talked a lot about, someone else providing the lyrics for your music, and Happenstancery is going to be so thrilled to. I would be happy too. And I think there's so many people who would be happy. It reminds me of Bernie from Elton John, writing, someone else helping with the lyrics to give Elton John the power to create, sing some of the most beautiful words. So it's just amazing to show we're not always all complete on our own. We need each other. We need somebody to sing our baby to sleep so that we can find inner peace, joy, and creativity. So I'm very thankful to meet you today. And I'm so excited because as we develop this technique to create,
Keep stalling. Don't mind me.
You go ahead and grab what you need. As we continue developing this technique to sing, and as an improv troupe, we're starting to dive into musical therapy, musical improv that happens right on the spot. And it's so exciting to have musicians who are going to support and accompany this process. So it's just such a happenstance that I met Yurble through social media, and I can't wait to share this podcast with the world. Sing us to sleep.
I found my dulcimer. I got it. It might be a little out of tune. Don't mind me.
It's beautiful. I think it sounds incredible.
Lulu, I'll take you dreaming through the rainy night to a place behind the raindrops where the stars are bright. You may not find gold or silver, but a richer prize waits for you behind the raindrop if you close your eyes. Tonight, when all the world's asleep, we'll tiptoe home with a wondrous star, a star you can always keep. And years from now, when you go dreaming, when you're very old, though your crown be rich with rubies, diamonds set in gold, none will shine so bright as the star will find tonight.
Yes.
Yes. Don't wake up the babies. They all just fell asleep.
Peaceful babies, sweet dreams. Climb until your dreams come true. I'm so excited we got to interact and meet Yurble today. One more time, Yurble, what is the folks' website where we can send people to again, and any other places, social media you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, I will definitely plug. My website is www.kiewra.net. You can find me also performing as Hamlet for Center Stage production of Hamlet. We open on March. Oh, give me 1 second. We open on March 8th at the Center for Performing Arts in Rhinebeck.
It's an amazing theater. They put on such great work there. And I'm just so excited. I would have to come see it. The last time I experienced that, I was in Batman Hamlet with Josh.
Oh, were you really? So we have a mutual friend in Josh.
Yes, they will be on there someday.
Yeah, I've heard great. When I've been involved a little bit in some adjacent ways here and there. I was going to be involved in their production of the Scottish play. But yeah, absolutely love Epiphany Shakespeare Co. as well. Keep an eye out for their projects. Let me think if there's anything else that's on the radar for me. Otherwise, yeah, come see me at the New York Renaissance Fair. I'm sure I'll be there next year, and if not, you'll have a great show regardless.
Awesome. Yes, yeah. Absolutely. We will be seeing you, and your Bard future is awaiting you. One last thing, is there any other locals in the Hudson Valley or people you think, if I don't know, I should maybe? Do you want to shout someone out who might be interested in having a conversation someday?
Gosh, absolutely. I know tons of people. First few that come to mind, Dwayne Joseph Olson is a wonderful prop maker, YouTuber, and but also performance artist, puppeteer, actor, singer, and character actor, voice actor, makeup artist, everything under the sun. He's one of those gorgeous human beings on the planet, is Dwayne.
Wow.
And so if you haven't met Dwayne Olson, I would be very surprised. And if you have, and so I definitely would say let's get Dwayne on the show. I think Erin Hebert is another one if you want to talk to a stunt performer and actor
Yes.
combatant. You know Erin, but get her on the show. She'd have a lot to say. She'd have a lot of fun things to talk about, I'm absolutely sure. Those are the two that come to mind immediately. But absolutely call me, and I will. If you have any angle you need to explore, I will find someone who will be interesting to talk to.
I will be contacting you a lot as Jolly Joe Jester. This is just the beginning of our friendship, our connection, our collaboration. So very excited. We're moving forward together, Yurble. I can't wait to meet you in person on Thursday. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we hope you have a beautiful rest of your evening. You want to twiddle those strings a little bit more to take us out? Have a beautiful rest of your night. Yes. Bravo. Have a good day, everyone.
This thing is not in tune.
You know what? Do you cry in tune? Do you laugh in tune?
Do you cry? Oh, I love that. I love that. You don't. Oh, you do. It always is.
Tune in, tune out, drop out, whatever they say.
Tune in next time. That's very funny.
Yes. Tune in next time for Joe's Java Jive. Thanks, everyone.
Alleyway, the musical. Another day in the alleyway. Another rat, another cockroach, another rich folk slapping my ass with a bat. Yep, no one panhandling, taking money out of my tin can. I'm so sick of this life. I'm filled with trouble and strife. There's no other way. I can't get the alleyway. It's hard to be way. How do we get out of this? How do we get out of it? We gotta make a plan. We gotta make a plan. What if we got out of this trap? We're trapped. If we take the trash out, if we take the trash out of the alleyway and clean up the neighborhood, you and me, clean it up, we get out of here. Just take this little diaper off of the street. Take this piece of newspaper and give it to the screen. And who left this chicken bone down here? Come on, what are you doing with your meat? And what are we gonna do with this cat food? We'll put it in this can. And who left the baby chair? This is a perfectly good There we have Alleyway the musical, folks. Poignant. Don't you just feel your heartstrings tugged at in just the right way? Social dove. Who are you?
Who? Me? Yeah.
Yes, you.
Why? I'm just dumb.
Oh, will we eat our own young, son? Have you brought an offering for me? Dad, I'm in love with a dove. And you know what they stand for? Peace. Forget your family heirlooms, Dad. Gobble no more. Don't gobble me up. I found my soul bird. You've convinced me, son. I'm going vegan. Yay! Yay! Goodbye. Goodbye. Look above! See the dove! There you have it, folks. And the Oscar goes to Thank you so much. Check us out on Instagram, Happenstancery, Improv, and on Patreon for